So we've completed the first of the two interaction diagrams, that is the UML DMV sequence diagram, which you see on the screen in front of you. Let's do the other interaction diagram, the collaboration diagram, which maps into and from directly the corresponding sequence diagram. So this would be called the DMV collaboration diagram. Now, I've mentioned that collaboration diagrams have been replaced with communication, but frankly, I think collaboration are more useful than communication, and so do others. So we're going to stick with that. Now, you have some important diagram constructs in collaboration, but before we get into them, let's set up the collaboration diagram. Say File, say New Diagram, and select the type to be collaboration. We want a standard workspace and a portrait orientation like it says right here, so just click on OK. And so there's our drawing space. Now the collaboration diagram, like the sequence diagram, has some important drawing constructs, diagram constructs, and so many of them are similar to the sequence. You have object, note, you have an object link, which is different. You have a procedure call, flat flow of control, asynchronous stimulus. Those are common to sequence. You have a return. That's also common to sequence. You have self-delegation, which is like a message from an object to itself, and you have a note link. Similar to a sequence diagram, the objects appearing in a collaboration diagram may represent object instances or object classes. And the way the object's identified determines if it's an instance or a class. When it has a name, that means the object is a particular object instance. So let's get into this. You have methods and you have links. This is something new. The basic difference between a collaboration diagram, it's not time phased like the sequence. It shows the order in which messages are sent along the links from one object to another. Objects in a collaboration diagram are only linked if they do send a message from one to the other. In the sequence diagram, not all of the objects sent messages to all of the other ones. So they would not be linked in the collaboration diagram. Another difference is that you indicate the order of messages through explicit numbering in a collaboration diagram. You do not explicitly number the messages in the order in which they occur in a sequence diagram. It's assumed to occur left to right, top to bottom in the sequence diagram. Collaboration diagram, you number them. And let's start by saving the collaboration diagram. And it's not going to be called DMV. It's going to be called driver registration. So let's say File and save with a new name. And we'll call it driver registration. We'll say OK. So now up here you can see in the bar driver registration, and it's a collaboration diagram. So let's start adding objects to a view. And the objects is this first rectangle up here. And we'll put this right about here, and we'll call it applicant in the class field, just like we did before. Applicant does not exist. You want to create it? Yes. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to add the other ones very quickly, invisibly, so you can see what it should look like once they're all on there. So when you've added all of the objects, it will look something like this. Driver's automobile insurance, driver registration window, applicant, learner's permit, driver's license, valid applicant, read test. I should correct myself. This is not an exact mate of the sequence diagram. You could have a collaboration diagram that is an exact mate of the sequence only containing those objects. But this is slightly different, which is why we named it driver registration instead of DMV registration. So we've added our objects to this view. Now we're going to add relationships, that is, object links. The links serve this purpose. They define which objects send messages. They're like the paths that the messages get sent from one object to another. Okay, so let's add these object links. And you want to select the object link, this one, from the control bar, and make a connection from driver's registration window to applicant. Again, hover over driver registration window, hold down the left mouse key, and just go over to applicant and let up. And we're going to add a message to this, and you must have saved the diagram to be able to do this. Okay, so we'll just add a method, and we'll call the method new, like that. And the message type will be, we'll leave all this alone, the message type will be flat flow of control. Leave the guard condition blank, but we will enter a sequence number. This is a major departure from sequence diagrams. You add the numbering. Okay, so when we're done, and you might want to reposition it slightly like this. Okay, so now I'm going to add the other links and the other messages so you'll see what it should look like when it's done. By the way, I should mention, add the links in the directions that the messages flow. Notice I went from driver registration window to applicant because that's the way the message flows. Okay, so let me add all the other ones. So when it's completed, it should look like this. Now, note that these are actually two messages, and I drew the second line right over the same first one, and I think the message is also on top of it, which is why it looks like it's filled in. I think that's just because they're sitting on top of each other, and I'm not sure if I can. Yes, I can actually. Kind of tricky on this one. And it's still filled in. I'm not sure why this is filled in. This is a flat flow of control. I made sure that it was. But let's not worry about that. Okay, so note that this is a condition, has learner's permit. The name of it is new. This one is new as well, the name of it, and it has a guard pass road test, and they're all numbered, 1.1. This is the order in which they occur. This one goes first, 1.1, then 1.2.1, then 1.2.2, then 1.3, then 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. Okay, so I had to fiddle with these a little bit. These are all flat flow of controls. But this is how it should look when you're done. This is the completed collaboration diagram.